Hey guys, it's Eric from Team Rec here, coming at you with a deck profile from locals last weekend. Went undefeated with Adventure Punk Synchro. Really liking the deck. Great combo deck. A lot of synergy with all the different engines, and it's just really fun going into the extra deck to make synchros, links, 1x's that I really like, which I'll get into later. But let's just get into the deck here and I'll talk about it a bit. So of course we got our adventure engine, monster wise. Anyway, we got the 3 water enchantress and the griffin. This is kind of a non-negotiable. It really kind of pads your future plays when you can start with your token and griffin rider active, and then you have a lot of 1-card starters, and then that leads to some pretty threatening boards, big monsters, lots of graveyard setup. So this kind of allows you to do that. A lot of synergy with Enchantress being a level 3, and the fact that you run emergency teleport in this deck. That's going to open up Cherubini plays, so it's really easy to see the engine in your deck. Starting things off with water Enchantress. A couple different ways to get to it, so you got to put in this deck, I think. For the punks, 3 Xiamen. I don't know, I really like 3. I think I've seen lists with 2, but I'm a fan of 3 with 3 E-Telly. Always want to see this. The combo is really good. Yeah, not much else to say about that. What I really like, probably my favorite punk card, is Foxy Tune. I find it really fixes your hand, has a lot of synergy with some of the cards you might want to discard. Really good kind of discarding engine pieces, which you'll see in a bit, and then kind of the miscellaneous, like good stuff cards, like Jet Synchron, Snow. I even have Token Collector in here as a one-off. Like the Shooting Riser plays. We'll get into that as well. Deer Note. You need Deer Note for the combo, but you don't want to see too much, so it's a one-off. Ogre Dance, kind of like 4th Xiamen as far as monsters go, and then you got 3 E-Tellys also to get to it. So you don't want to use your normal summon on it because it doesn't work well right. I have an Eldlich engine. I was running 1 Golden Lord, 2 Cursed Eldland, 2 Eldlixir, 2 Conquistador, and 1 Aquero. I just kind of wanted a more condensed version of the Eldlich engine. Kind of risky playing the 1 Lord, but the deck isn't too, Eldlich centric. It's more of just a minor engine. And this kind of helps make, I find it makes your decision making easier, especially when it comes to simplified game states and you're using like cards like Fateful Adventure or Jet Synchron. It's really going to kind of push things along and make those plays where you seemingly have to go negative, into a positive. This deck's just really good with graveyard synergy, so I thought this was a no-brainer. This is what I added in from when I originally built this deck. It's kind of a copy of the Hani build in Hartford. Hand traps are a bit different. I'm just not playing Ashes right now, so I don't have them. You'll see that I'm kind of incomplete in some regards, especially with the extra deck, but I find this deck's been working well for me as it currently is. As far as hand traps go, we got, let's see here, the Psy Frames, Token Collector, and Impermanence as one-ofs, 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Ghost Ogre, 2 Nibiru's. Yeah, so a little bit about these. I just play 1 Imperm because I side into Crossout, and I don't want to have a 1 of Impermanence in the sideboard, and I don't mind seeing it in the main. If I open it up with the 1 copy or see it later on, it's not too bad. So it's okay to set it. Like, it's a really versatile card to risk just playing the 1 copy, which can be kind of awkward to some people, but Crossout at 3 kind of legitimizes that. Same as Token Collector, like siding into Crossout, because this can help you, of course, play around it, because if you want to go into right and get that started. But you can dump this off Shooting Riser, help you against Sword Soul, of course, and Brave stuff. The 3 Gamma. This is probably the best hand trap in the deck because it allows you to. It's kind of like the same idea as Adventurer. It's just extra protection for comboing. You have a lot of starters that will trigger a hand trap, like say Cursed Eldland or E-Telly, or even using Enchantress. I think some good players will probably see that though, but I think it's pretty devastating when you can resolve the Gamma. And then I kind of have awkward 2-ofs here. I think Veiler and Nib could be 3-ofs, but it's easier to see them with Chaos Ruler. And I don't think 3 Ogre would be my favorite personally, because I have 3 E-Telly. I don't want to see it too much, and I don't mind having it in the deck to summon off E-Telly if I need to. But Nib could be a good 3-of. I think it's kind of it's worth the risk of it being irrelevant in some matchups because it's really good to have in a game 1 where you're playing like against a similar pace deck and you lost the die roll, for example. We got 3 Sangan and Crusadia Arborea. So you've probably seen this, you know, in many iterations, this little engine here, because it starts off Almirage into Arborea, then Helka-Fibrax, like a lot of FTKs earlier on kind of ran that similar engine, and it kind of works the same way in this deck. It's a really powerful line of play for very little investment, and Sangan is kind of having your cake and eating it too when it comes to Rite of Eremizer, because you're normal summoning it to get that value from its effect, but it activates in the grave, so kind of a loophole there, which I, think is really broken for this deck. Okay. Scythe, that's a non-negotiable. Just that setup is so broken and very low investment, so I think you got to do it. We got Plague, Snow, Jet Synchron. These are just good stuff cards. This will allow Calamity to happen, of course, which I don't think is like super important for this deck. It's good to have, but the extra can get tight depending on how you want to play this deck. Snow is a non-negotiable. It just works so well with everything else in this deck. It's pretty easy to fill your grave with the standard lines of play that you go into, and of course Jet is so good with Helka-Fibrax and setting up Scythe. Moving on to spells, 3 right, Echoback, Fateful, so of course your adventure engines here, and yeah, these ratios are pretty standard, really no comment there. I could see an argument for 2 Fateful, given the kind of support cards in this deck, like miscellaneous engines that work in the graveyard, but I like 1. Called by, this is an aggressive deck, you need a called by. You don't want to draw suboptimally and be in those situations where you're losing to 1 to 2 hand traps. Called by is pretty clutch that way. We got Foolish Burial, that's your 4th Enchantress, and it also has utility with other cards, of course, like Golden Lord, Jet Synchron. 3 Droplet. Awesome in this deck because you can kind of play around with cards. Like, it never hurts losing cards, sending them to the graveyard, because it always kind of feeds into another line of play. And this card is just so broken. Quick play, negation, and you can kind of control what can be responded to it. And you have a wide variety of options that way, because you can send Eldlich traps, which might help you in like an Altergeist matchup, or yeah, I don't know, rogue stuff. But or you can kind of blink cards, or even take your Rite of Air off the field, things like that. Plays around a lot of cards, is basically what I'm saying. 3 Italy. Another non-negotiable because it is not once per turn, it is quick play, and the synergy of Ghost Ogre, even like getting Gamma out off of it, going into Alka-Fibrax, and then of course getting Xiamen out. The deck's so circular that way. You're always going to see these kind of level 3s or sidekicks or like Adventurer, and then have Grave set up. So you're always going to kind of go into the same power plays comfortably, and it's not like some combo decks in the past where it's been kind of awkward to arrive at those board states. I know not in recent Yu-Gi-Oh, but here's the extra. This card was so clutch for me. The way it can kind of remove things from the field unconventionally, of course, linking them away. I call it like a kaiju on steroids. But it also has that other effect to negate special summoning from the graveyard. So that can be clutch too. Just a very powerful card, and then of course negating effects there. This was supposed to be an access code, like it was an access code when I played the tournament. Access code was insane. No matter first or second, I thought. And if you really wanted to get aggressive and try to steal the game early, that's kind of your option there. Unicorn, still, I think it's non-negotiable for this deck, because you have a lot of broken link 2s, and you're left with an extender, and it's kind of that unconventional removal. Like, a lot of people protect against destruction, but shuffling with the deck is, you know, something different. So utility there. We got our link 2s. I didn't have Cherubini in initially. I was kind of like on the fence about that, but I kind of like that extension you get by tapping into the Adventure Engine off like a suboptimal hand, where it's like monster level 3 extender. You don't always want to rush into Alka-Fibrax, things like that. Moving on. Link Karibo, Almirage. Honestly, these are pretty broken now because they enable like a ton of lines of play with how simple they are to bring out. And moving stuff to the graveyard, that's just another way of doing it, but you're also retaining a body. And their effects are kind of okay in a pinch. These two are, you know, partners in crime. They were so good. This card's, you know, I think it should be banned. Very broken. Milling that 5 and then getting a lighter dark, which is usually a hand trap, puts you in such a good position, and it's a very low investment. And then you can bring it back. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with this one, but I like playing it. It's fun. And then that also kind of enables you to go into Zombie, because you're always bringing the Foxy tune after you go into this with Xiamen and Deer Note. And then this, yeah, that mills you another 4. It has other effects too, like the neither player can target this card with effects, so special summon monsters, except those special summoned from the graveyard. That comes up a lot more often than you think. But the cool part about this deck, going back to kind of the big picture here, is it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. There's a lot of utility from a lot of different cards, and it's all low investment, and you can kind of get these power plays going comfortably. Like, going into this card doesn't take much. The setup can be done relatively easy. Do you want to kind of risk it all to go into that? You know, usually you can get it to, you know, do its thing for you. But I think it's worth keeping around. It's kind of your win button. But the risk is still there, of course. And then we use Punisher, Formula, Riser, TG Wonder Magician. I'll just bang off these 4 here, talk a bit. Yeah, Talca Fibrax utility cards, great for dumping, you know, anything specific. That's obviously goes in tandem with Scythe, and it floats a bit, netting you that, not netting you, but getting you that card after it's destroyed. Formula, of course, that's going to enable you to go into some synchro plays on the opponent's turn, like namely that card. And then I think this is still the unsung hero of the deck. There'll be weekends where this kind of carries the deck for me, and then there'll be times where I don't see it at all. But really good card. It's kind of that unconventional card design where a lot of decks can't play around that life point difference aspect. What else we got? The sideboard. I'll just put a bunch out here and talk about them quick. So we got the Scarlight, the 3 cross out, 2 Dark Ruler, and 3 Twister for the spells, and the 1 extra deck side here. Twisters is my favorite card for back row removal right now. Like Cyclone's obviously valid, but I always go back to this for this deck is the graveyard is really important. It's going to help your grind game too. So those matchups where you're grinding it out against slower tempo back row decks, it's probably my favorite back row removal. There's a lot of pieces you want to get into the grave quickly. Even kind of a roundabout way of like pitching Eldlich, for example, getting to Conquistador to out a Floodgate later. It's the little things like that which I think kind of make Twin Twisters a bit better. 2 Dark Ruler for blanking out boards and, you know, playing that uphill battle, of course. 3 cross out, really liking that. A lot of people play a lot of the same cards, and you can use this in your favor, and it can kind of turn the tables in an unexpected way because you're negating some unconventional cards like Imperm, even Gamma, Anti-Spell, 3 Solemn, and 2 there can be only 1. Complete the sideboard. They're just good going first cards. You got Floodgates there in the case of like Anti-Spell, and there can only be 1. There can be only 1, sorry. And then 3 Solemn. I don't really have much to say about it. It's historically always been great siding in going first. It's just going to fortify your board state, and it's simple negation. Just, you know, be careful of how close to time you play it, because that has gotten me before. Anyway, that's the deck with extra inside. I'll have some more deck profiles soon. I probably will be changing up to Splite in the near future, so stay tuned for that when all that comes out. For now, enjoy. See you guys.